Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Kaylee. I'm currently a student here at APU, and in just a few minutes, we'll get started with the event. Hey guys, I see that you're all coming in. So my name is Kaylee. I'm a senior here at APU, and we'll get started in just a couple minutes. Oh, so Kate, it looks like we have a poll going on. And so the question is, what are you most looking forward to about college? So we have academics / my major, new friends and experiences, getting involved on campus, and athletic events. Natalie, Alea, and Danielle, what are you guys looking forward to?
I remember being really excited to meet new people. I just love being able to walk into a space where I don't know anyone and kind of just get a feel for everybody and just completely be myself and all that. So I was super excited. I remember being super excited about that because when I came to APU, I didn't know anybody from my high school. So that was the most exciting thing for me, and like still is the most exciting thing for me whenever I go into a new situation.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
I definitely have to agree. I was very excited to meet new people and new friends and new experiences, especially after high school, and also dorm life and just roommates and all of the other college things.
Yeah, I would say the same as Alea and Natalie. I love the idea of meeting new people, and all of the freshman year events were my favorite because you got to meet everyone in your dorm and everyone that was just on campus in general, and it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Hi guys, for you people that just joined, we actually have a poll going on right now. So what are you most looking forward to about college? It looks like most of you guys have voted for new friends and experiences. Some of you guys, academics and my major, and then a few for getting involved on campus and athletics. So that's fun. And then in just a few moments, we'll actually get started with the event. So hang tight. Also, if you guys have any questions, we will be having a Q&A later during the second half of the event. So please feel free to send questions into the Q&A portion. All right, so let's see. So our results for the poll were 16 of you guys said academics and my major, completely agree with you there. 23 said new friends and experiences, also a great one. And then 2 of you guys said getting involved on campus, and then another 2 for athletic events. Honestly, I agree with all of these answers. So we can talk more about that later. All right. So hello everyone, welcome to Inside APU. So this event is basically kind of the students at APU have taken over admissions, and so we're here to introduce ourselves, talk a little bit about our experiences at APU and what we've been up to. And so later on, I'll play a couple of videos, I'll introduce our students here, and then we'll basically just have a giant Q&A panel. So you guys can ask questions and we'll answer them. So feel free to send your questions in through the Q&A, and then later on we'll get answering to those. And so right now we have 3 other students here at APU, these lovely ladies, and then we also have an admissions counselor with us, Randall. And so we'll kind of go down the line. We'll start with Randall and then go to Danny, Alea, and then Natalie. So Randall, you want to introduce yourself?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Randall Chavez, and I'm admissions counselor here at Azusa Pacific. I'm also an alumni. This event is mainly for you guys and these lovely 4 students that you see on screen here, but I'm here to answer any admissions-related questions you have. Again, feel free to send anything in the chat, and myself or these 4 students would love to answer your questions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danny Ethel. I am a junior studying communication management now. We just changed the major name. And thank you all for being here.
Hi, everyone. So good to see that there's about 49 of you. That's very exciting. I am a junior here at APU. I'm a communication management along with Danny major and a leadership minor.
Hello, I'm Natalie Day, and I also am a communication management major, and I have a minor in youth ministry.
All right, thanks everyone. And if for those of you that just came in, again, my name is Kaylee. I'm currently a senior at APU. I'm an allied health major and a psychology minor. And so with all that, we're actually going to show you guys a video from one of our students named Hannah Sai. She was also an allied health major, and so she's going to talk about her journey real quick. And so I'll go ahead and get that started for you guys.
Hi, I'm Hannah Sai. I'm a junior allied health major here at APU. I was taking anatomy second semester my freshman year, and I'm standing over the cadaver, overwhelmed by all that I had to memorize and all that I had to remember for my upcoming practical. And in that, I was so blown away. I felt like the Lord's kind of spoke to me, like, look at like the intricacy of this body. Look at the intricacy of everything going on at the same time. The thought I put into creating you physically, and the thought I put into this amazing mechanism that is you, like I've also poured into creating you as like a whole being. The thoughts you have, the personality you have, like that's the thought and value like I poured into you, and that just came from the stress of studying for my next test. I love my major, and I've been so blessed to have professors that have been very nurturing and have not only poured into me as an individual, but also preparing me for what's to come after school.
All right, perfect. And so we'll kind of go around and just say a little blurb about what we've been involved in around APU. And so again, I'm an allied health major, so I'm a part of the biology and chemistry department, and then also for the psych minor, that would be the psychology department. Throughout all 4 years, I've been involved in a lot, whether that be like the zoo crew, which is like the student section, intramurals, action teams. We'll talk more about that later. And so those are a couple of things that I've been involved in. Natalie, what about you?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I'm a senior. I'm majoring in communications. I have a minor in youth ministry. One of the biggest things that I've been involved with in the last 3 years is I've been a Young Life team leader. So if you're familiar with that organization, APU has a ton of different ways to get involved in it, and I highly recommend it. I also studied abroad in South Africa almost 2 years ago now, which is crazy, and I will go on forever about that, but I won't take up all the time talking about it. But those are kind of the 2 major highlights, but I've also been able to attend a lot of different clubs at APU, even if that's just going once or twice to really get a feel for it. There's so many options, and I absolutely love that.
Thanks, Natalie. How about you, Alea?
Sure. So like I said, I'm a junior, going on my 3rd year, which is crazy to think about. It's gone by so fast. Studying communication management, and I have a leadership minor. I just switched to comm not even a year ago, liberal studies student. So any of you who have questions about those departments, I'd love to answer them later in the Q&A. I've also been involved in a couple of clubs on campus. Some of the ones that I could think about, it's called PIO, which is our Pacific Islander organization. It's one of the ethnic organizations on campus. So we have a few here and there that are just for students to get involved in and experience different cultures. So even though I'm not Pacific Islander myself, I get to take part in anything PIO puts on, which has been a blast since freshman year. So going to the beach with people, also learning how to make some of the best Polynesian dishes like spam masubi, participating in hula and dance, all the above. I've also been able to be a part of D group, or discipleship group, but we call it D group on campus. And that has just been one of my favorite things since freshman year, just being a part of a group of about 4 to 10 of us where we just get to experience life and walk alongside each other. And I've made some of my closest friendships through clubs and other things like that. So if you have any questions about those, I'd love to share more about those later.
Yeah, Alea, thanks for sharing. Honestly, PIO, love it so much. Danny, what about you?
So I'm also a part of the communications department. So any questions on that, we would all love to answer that. I have been a part of Mexico Outreach, which is a small organization, a part of the action teams that Kaylee was talking about, where we go to Mexico for a mission trip for a short period of time. I'm also a part of the discipleship office, and I've been in a couple D groups actually, and I'm running my own this semester, which is super exciting. I studied abroad in Ecuador this past semester, and I've also been a part of a couple clubs on campus. Ones I can think of are Free the Captives, which is our anti-human trafficking club on campus, and then I'm trying to think the other one. Oh, American Sign Language Club as well.
That's awesome. Thanks, Annie. Thanks, ladies, for sharing all that. So we actually are going to go into one more student video. It's going to be Hannah Hernandez. She's also going to talk about her journey at APU. And then right after that, we'll get started with the Q&A.
Hi, my name is Hannah, and I'm a sociology major, and I'm a senior. Initially, I actually came into APU with a different major, and I was really excited about that major, and I took a bunch of classes, and the people were amazing, and the professors were awesome, but when I started to get deeper and deeper into it, I decided that I wasn't super sure about it anymore, so then I actually applied to study abroad in South Africa and got accepted entering it. I wanted to be as open-minded as I could and understand that people are incredibly different and enter that with just grace and so much love. Sitting and listening to someone and learning their story and appreciating them is something that is so essential to just sharing the gospel and being a disciple of Jesus. I completely changed my mind and wanted to become part of the sociology major. Jesus was like, Hannah, you're going to do this instead, and I want you to do this, and you're going to thrive in this. And then I entered the major and met so passionate professors that just wanted to sit down and wanted you to excel and wanted you to succeed. And I felt like I was a team with them. We can just have so many different conversations where people can sit down with one another and be willing to listen and be willing to challenge one another and say, okay, tell me why you believe that, or tell me why you think this should change. Sociology majors are some of the most passionate people I've ever met, and I think that I'm really lucky and so honored to be a part of that.
All right. So that was Hannah's story. Kind of funny because both of their names are Hannah, but we'll go ahead and get started with the Q&A. So again, feel free to send in questions through the Q&A. And I see that we have one right here from Jonathan, and he's asking, what is the experience like living in a dorm on campus during your first year at APU? So Danny, do you want to answer that?
Yes, I do. Actually, I was hoping you would ask me. My girls on my freshman hall are my absolute loves of my lives. We had a smaller group because we were on the top floor of Trinity, but we all grew so close together. One of them actually just got married, and we were all still like texting each other like, what is this, 2-3 years later, and we're so excited for her. And we wish we could be there, but because of certain circumstances, we can't. But Absolutely loved my freshman year, loved the freshman hall. Everyone became so close, and it was definitely one of my favorite parts of my experience at APU.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. We have another one. How can you fulfill your service credits? Alea, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. So fulfilling my service credits, I remember coming in freshman year and being a little concerned with, I think it's 120 you have to fulfill. But after that first month, you don't even think about it, because fulfilling your service credits, there's so many different ways to do so, and that is on campus and off campus. So I can share mainly on campus ways I've been able to fulfill my service credits and around in local areas, even things like just serving at a local church. Sometimes service credits are worked right into your own classes. So I'm in a leadership class this semester where we are going to teach high schoolers, and that counts as service credits. Just doing opportunities right down the street from APU at Homework House and tutoring middle schoolers, literally anything, any way you can serve the community, you get credits for. And then we also have abroad opportunities that I think was it Danny or Natalie shared about their experience on an action team, where you can actually travel outside of the APU community to Mexico or even across the country and serve others around the globe. So it's really easy to do. You don't even have to think twice about it. So don't let that number intimidate you. And it's also a great time to just experience the rest of the world and serve what we're called to do, and that's to help others.
Definitely agree with that. Thanks for sharing, Alea. Another question. What are your favorite places on campus to just relax and spend time with friends? Natalie, do you want to answer that one? I feel like you have a good answer for that.
I love everywhere except the library because I don't like sitting in silence, but people love the library, so that is a very popular spot. Don't just base everything off of my words, but I think that my favorite spot, there's this one main strip on campus called Cougar Walks. If you've been on campus, you've probably seen it before, and if you haven't, you will when you're there. You're going to know about it. But I love just walking up and down there and hoping to see people that I know, and that's one of the great things about that you can, on your way to class, you're almost guaranteed to see somebody, and that's where a lot of people end up just hanging out. It's nice because it's also right across from some of our food options, so there's a lot of people running in and out, and even if it's just a quick hello, that's where I like to be. But I also don't get a lot of homework done there because I like to see people, so maybe I should start going to the library. But that is my hot take on where to see people.
I definitely feel you on that one. Cougar Walk, great place to hang out, not so much homework, so there's so many distractions. Completely agree. We do have a couple of questions that are similar, asking about why we chose to go to APU. So I can answer first, and then if you guys want to tie into that too and like give your take on that, you guys are more than welcome to answer. The main reason why I chose to go to APU, so all the colleges that I applied to actually had a DPT program, which stands for Doctorate of Physical Therapy, because I knew in high school, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. So all the colleges that I applied to had that program, and APU was actually one of those colleges. And so that was like one main reason why I applied, but also the reason why I chose to go to APU was because of the route that it took. So with the allied health track, it's more centered for people who want to go into physical therapy, occupational therapy, pharmaceuticals, things like that. So all the classes that you're taking really hone into that future career that you're going to go into. And I know this sounds kind of weird, but I've never had a professor where like they didn't care or I had a bad experience with them, because I feel like all of the professors at APU are just really passionate about what they teach, and they actually care about their students and they want them to succeed and become a difference maker. And like that's what APU is all about. And so that's why I chose APU. Do you guys want to tie into it?
Yeah, I could share a little bit. So my path was a bit different because I had no clue what I wanted to study. I really didn't figure it out till this past year. But I knew that leaving high school, I grew up very local to APU. So APU is a name I've heard since I was younger, but I didn't know what it was about too much. But I applied anyway because I knew it was a Christian community. And that was something that was very important to me in the midst of college admissions, making sure I went somewhere that was where I would be surrounded Christians. And it wasn't until I came to APU had an event, I think it's called Choose APU, and I was able to stay overnight in the dorms. I stayed in Adams Hall, which is one of the freshman dorms for all girls. And just through that one night, it was so evident on campus, like the presence of community. And I know that can be a buzzword at APU, but I think it's definitely something that as soon as you walk down Cougar Walk, as soon as you enter in just the front of campus, it is such a friendly place and it just feels like home. And I know as soon as I walked in, it felt like home. And after that, as I navigated through the rest of the college admission process, I was just sure to start everything off with prayer because, again, I know where I wanted to go. I had no clue what I wanted to study, and I had very little guidance too, since I was one of the only people from my family to be going to college. But I just presented everything in prayer, and I feel like God kind of just closed the right doors and opened the right doors that led me to APU. And so I kind of always say I didn't necessarily choose APU, but APU chose me, and that was just because how present God was in the whole process.
For me, I came from out of state. So I'm originally from Portland, Oregon. And so I knew that I wanted to go to a faith-based school, and then I knew I wanted to go out of state. So the idea of it being in Southern California was a bonus, but it also played a factor in where I ended up being. But similar to Leia, just talking about community, you're probably going to hear that a lot when you come to these events, and learn more about APU community is huge. And I loved also how intentional professors were, how intentional people in your classes were, how intentional people were with me even when I came to visit on campus. And then last thing, I really admire APUs, how intentional they are when it comes to having conversations about diversity. So even the fact that I can go to like a multicultural event or club or whatever that may be and learn about things I had never learned about growing up was super important to me, to know that I get to be challenged in that way and get to learn. And there's, again, so many opportunities to get involved in that. APU does a really good job of really just handing you all these different things that you can do, so you're not trying to figure it all out. It's very much, this is what we have and this is what you can engage with, and you can walk right into that. So I really love that as well.
Danny, would you like to share why you chose to go to APU?
I don't have that much to add. I think the stories kind of are similar. So I was looking at universities. Originally, I was just looking at universities in general. Similar to Alea, I didn't really know where I was going to go or what I was going to do. And I had got in that process of just kind of like praying it out and going to different universities. And I would go to a university and I would check it out. And immediately when I got there, I was like, this isn't me. Like, I don't belong here. Just kind of like didn't really feel right. And I kept having people encourage me, like, try Azusa. And I was like, I've never heard of this place before. And eventually I went to, after a couple universities, I was like, I want to try APU. And my parents were like, yes, finally. And so we went to APU, and immediately when I stepped on campus, I was like, this is where I belong for sure. Like, this is where God's taking me. Like, never felt more at home. This is where I belong. And everyone's so supportive. And again, the word community, but the community there is so strong. And it was like no other university I tried. And I knew that's where I was supposed to be.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing. We have another question asking, is it easy to switch majors if you change your mind? And so, Alea, I know you talked about briefly switching majors, so do you want to answer this one?
Sure, I'd love to share. Yeah, I had no problem at all switching my major. So I switched it, I'm on my third year now, but I switched it in the middle of my first semester of sophomore year, so about a year ago. And it's so easy to do. I mean, you can do it online. You just switch your major, you submit a major change, but we have an academic advising center where you can go, and basically what I did is I walked in and I said, okay, I think this is what I want to do. What would it look like to switch my major? Would it be pushing me back graduation wise? Like, what would that look like? And they sat with me for about an hour. I talked it out with an academic advisor, and they basically laid it all out for me and said, these are your options, and it was all good to go. So I switched from liberal studies to communication management just within one semester, and I've had no issues doing that. So I did that my sophomore year. I also know people who do it at the end of their junior year. APU is really great about working with you and making sure that ultimately you are exactly where you feel that you belong. So I'd say that it's never too late, and you have the support you need when it comes to figuring out if you're in the right major. It was through a simple conversation with my professors where I realized, okay, liberal studies isn't for me, and I think I need to switch to comm.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Another question. Someone said, I've just been accepted to APU for the fall as a transfer student. Oh, congratulations. Yay. Any tips or info I should know? And Natalie, do you want to say a little something about that?
Yes, I would say get to know your professor. So reaching out to them, sending them an email saying, hey, I'm a transfer student. This is my first time, just reaching out, introducing yourself. Somebody else said it a little bit ago, but just professors are incredibly intentional, and they see you for a student, not just another, or they see you for an individual, not just another student. So I have loved my professors. I call everybody in the practical theology department for my youth ministry minor. I call them by their first name. I text my professors. I can email them and talk to them whenever I want. They very much want to know who you are. They've been very accommodating, especially with this whole new Zoom university. So I would say reach out to them, just send them that extra email and kind of see what happens and where it goes, because we all know that it's really tricky to try and get to know people when you're on a screen. But I guarantee that if you email that professor, they're going to be super excited that you're a part of this and that they get to know you even more. So definitely reach out to professors. And that goes for anybody whenever you're at APU. It's so worth it.
Yeah, definitely. We have a student asking about scholarships and finances. So I feel like this would be more for a question for Randall, our admissions counselor. So they're asking, can students get a lot of scholarships and financial aid from APU to help with tuition?
Definitely. We definitely offer a variety of different scholarships at APU. One of the more common forms of scholarship is going to be the academic scholarship. I see there's a few questions on the academic scholarship. That's going to be based on and evaluated on your high school GPA. So we'll take a look at that, and then we'll give you a certain number based on that after you apply for APU. There's various other scholarships you can find at APU. Definitely check in with your departments in case your major may or may not offer one. Some organizations also offer their own form of financial aid. One of the more important parts is going to be the FAFSA that opened today. So be sure to take a look at that. But definitely if you want to find out more, connect with admissions counselor, and we'd love to get connected with you about financial aid.
Thanks, Randall. So I saw a question about physical therapy and I got super excited. So I'll go ahead and answer this one. It's asking, how is the physical therapy program under the allied health major at APU, and how do the classes differ under these circumstances? So the physical therapy program is going to be separate from allied health. So to go into the physical therapy program, you do not necessarily have to be a quote unquote science major to apply to any program across the United States. You just have to meet the minimum requirements. So obviously those academics. But personally for me, being on the allied health route, I've preferred it because a lot of the classes that I take, like I've taken 3 anatomy classes here at APU. And so that's really helped me because obviously with physical therapy, you're working with the body, we get to work with the cadavers. And so you get hands-on experience, which is like one of my favorite things to do. I know for some people, they don't like the idea of a cadaver, totally fine. But for me, that's something I'm super passionate about. But just because I'm allied health doesn't mean that I'm guaranteed to get in at APU. It's very much based off of my academics and like what I've accomplished and whether or not they think that I'm suitable for their program. And just because I'm allied health doesn't mean I'm better or have a better chance of getting in compared to someone that's kinesiology or a biology major or even sociology. It really doesn't matter. So they look at that. It's different, but I would say you would have a better understanding of it, if that makes sense. I hope I answered that question. There's another question asking, what types of clubs are there to join at APU and what are your favorite clubs? And so I know everyone kind of has their own favorite clubs. And so again, we can go around, say what our favorite clubs are. For me, I also agree with Alea, the PIO Club, Pacific Islander Organization. It's so much fun. It's a giant community, along with like all the clubs on campus. Really, people just come together as a family. We hang out. And so, yeah, and we also have this huge production. It used to be called Luau, where we would, students would come together, practice dances, and we would actually perform it for our student body, friends, and family. And so that's a fun club that a lot of people like to participate in. Natalie, what about you?
Yeah, so I haven't necessarily joined a lot of clubs, but I've attended a lot of clubs do meetings every now and then where it's very like informational or historical, whatever that looks like. So a couple of clubs that I've attended, I've actually attended a Black Student Association club, which I never thought that I would be attending, but super thankful that I get to do that. And then I also attended a multi-ethnic at APU, yes, at APU club as well. So again, those are very open for anybody that wants to come and join and just, again, sit there, listen, learn. So I love that opportunity. And then also Free the Captives, which Danny mentioned. I have a lot of friends that are participating in that, and I've attended a couple of their clubs as well. So again, that's the great thing about these clubs is that you can join them, you can be a member, you can be on the board, or you can show up once a month, every other month, and just, again, sit, learn, listen, and feel really good about that. So that's one thing. Those are the few that I've attended.
Definitely. Thanks, Natalie. I saw a question right here. It says, what are D groups and chapel like? So I know Danny and Alea have been involved in D groups. Danny, do you want to go first?
Sure. So as far as D groups go, it's one of the things that I highly recommend. D groups and Alpha are two of the things we have for freshmen coming into the university, and it's a good way for them to get involved. Discipleship groups are more along the lines of like-minded individuals that want to grow in their faith, kind of building that community together. And they go by semester, so I did 2 my freshman semester, and it was a great way to get to know people. As far as chapels go, they are, you do get to go 3 times per week. And the nice thing about them is that they get to change them, or they actually do change them every single time. So there'll be a different theme or a different speaker, sometimes outside speakers. So things are always changing with that. So you're not listening to the same thing over and over again. And that's a really nice thing we have for our chapels as well.
Yeah, and I'd love to share on chapel too. I'm an intern. I'm doing my internship with the Office of Corporate Worship, which is the office that puts on chapel. And this semester, it looks a little bit different, obviously, because we're remote. But typically, like Danny mentioned, chapel is one of my favorite things on campus. You have the opportunity to go to 3 chapels per week, but you can choose from about 5 or 6. So we have a bunch of different chapels to just offer variety and diversity. So there's like a liturgical chapel, which is more of your traditional chapel. You have an evening prayer chapel, which is one of my favorites during the school year because it just provides you with time to just reflect and pray in a more quiet setting. Then we have our morning chapels where we have tons of outside speakers, missionaries, local pastors, some famous authors come and speak, as well as senior chapel. Once you become a senior, you have the option to go to senior chapel. And then my favorite, which is Wednesday night, which is Kaleo chapel. And that's more of just like our spontaneous. It goes a little longer, but it's such a good time. People line up for Kaleo probably like 40, 50 minutes before, just because everyone's so excited to get within the first 2 rows. So chapel is a fun thing on campus, and you have many options to choose from, so you never feel like it's the same thing. They're switching up speakers, switching up the messages all the time, and it's just one of the best ways to just feel at home at APU.
Yeah, definitely. Completely agree with that. Kaleo, ever since my freshman year, I've always loved it. So another person is asking, what are the most fun campus traditions? Oof, that's a hard one. I don't know. What do you guys think? There are so many.
Can we say Kaleo again?
Literally.
I'm sure someone else could speak on traditions that are fun, but I know a tradition that I hold close to my heart is something that happens on Welcome Weekend. So Welcome Weekend is the name of the weekend of the first couple of days you spend at APU when you're moving in and your family is finally saying bye to you and all these things. But that Sunday morning right before the first week of school, after the last kind of all together orientation weekend chapel with your whole family. You leave the Felix Event Center, which is our big venue used for chapel, and you go, they encourage you to go find a spot on campus, and they give you some chalk, and you're supposed to make that spot like your spot for the next 4 years. So my family took me and we down little area on campus, and we do a circle, and we got to just spend some time just praying and sitting there with one another before my parents left. And so that happened freshman year, but even though that was 3 years ago, we made it a point to go back to that spot every year since then, and end every school year and begin every school year there. So that's kind of a tradition that APU starts off, and then I carried on.
Definitely. This person is asking, what has it been like going to APU during the pandemic? Did you guys feel supported by the staff in the community? And overall, how are classes online? Personally, for me, moving to online, it was a shock, but it wasn't too difficult because I think most of our classes had like an online portion, like that's where you would submit your assignments, your homework, all of that. And so it was just this shift of being in person to looking at my computer screen almost 24/7 was a bit of a challenge. But I think personally for me, I think if you did a really good job, they really honed in on just providing us with like an immense amount of resources. Like if you're feeling stressed, like come talk to one of our counselors or one of our campus pastors. Like we're here for you guys. There were so many different resources, and yeah, I'm sure you guys have some things to say about that too.
It is definitely a transition. My line for the last couple weeks has been, I'm learning a new form of time management, because the great thing is that all my professors understand this whole Zoom fatigue. And so a lot of them, or for a couple of my classes, if I'm required to go 2 times a week, it's likely that I'll only Zoom in once a week, because they'll say, okay, you don't have to Zoom in on Tuesdays, but you do on Thursday. So then it's this navigating, okay, well, I have this hour and a half on Tuesdays where normally I'd be in class. Should I do homework? Should I take a nap? What should I be doing? So it's a new form of time management, which has been tricky. But at the same time, again, I just can't emphasize enough how much our professors really do care for us and are really able to be honest with, yeah, I'm tired of being on a computer. Yeah, this is tricky for me too. So there's this sense of like, we're all in this together, which sounds so cheesy, but it's so true. So definitely new form of time management, but like Kaylee is saying, APU does a really good job of providing resources and acknowledging that things are going to be different. You might not have the best Wi-Fi. You may be living with 6 other people. You may not have a space in your house that you can really sit down and focus. They're very good at acknowledging we're all in different situations in life right now. And so they try to make that very adaptable for everybody, which has been really, really sweet.
Definitely. So we've had a couple questions asking about internships at APU. So are there a lot of opportunities for internships at APU? And I would say yes. I believe, at least I think, within most majors, you actually have to do an internship. And so like it really depends on your major. So for allied health, you're required to do an internship during your course when you take practicum. And so like if you're going into PT, obviously you would intern at a physical therapy clinic. For nurses, a whole bunch of my friends are nurses, and so quote unquote their internship is actually their clinicals, which is every single semester. So they go to different hospitals, they're doing different rotations, and they get to see the different fields of nursing and things like that. But Danielle, do you have anything to add about internships? I think you had a couple.
Depending on the program you take, for the study abroad program in Ecuador, we had an internship that we were required to take with that program. So I was able to have an experience abroad as well as back home. And I know the communication department does this, and I'm pretty sure every other department does this too, but correct me if I'm wrong, Kaylee. But at least for the communication department, we have a specific person who will send everyone in the communication department an email about internships that are coming up. So because they know that we have to do one to graduate, and they also want to keep us in the know about networking and what's available. And so we'll get constant emails about internships that are available.
Yeah, I believe that's true because even with the psychology department, so even as a minor, we're constantly getting emails like, oh, there's this research opportunity, there's this internship opportunity. And so if you ever need that experience or want that experience, I say don't worry, because typically that will happen, and it's probably going to be required, at least for the majors that we have here on this panel. Typically it's going to happen around your junior or your senior year, depending on how many credits you've taken. So, and then I have another question. What is the most difficult part about transitioning from high school to college, and what was it you expected to struggle the most with? Ooh, that's a good question. I'm gonna pass this one on to Alea. Alea, you look like you're thinking.
Yeah, I was trying to think because I feel like maybe if I went to any other university, it would be hard, but I actually found that APU made the transition from high school to college easier and even better, because in college it's awesome because you're taking classes you genuinely care about, and the classroom size at APU, like we've all kind of shared on, the intimacy that you have with your professors, I think makes it so much. I found that college has been a lot easier than high school. Of course, workload is different. Obviously, you're in higher education, so you're learning more difficult things. But I wouldn't say, I think APU just does a great job at making it a really smooth transition, especially as a freshman. You have support, not just as far as feeling like you belong on campus, but also academically. You have all the support you need. And like they've all mentioned, professors are there to help you and hear about where you came from and your high school. And because of that, they're always willing to be flexible with you, even if you feel like you're walking into a class and you're like, oh, I don't feel like I've ever learned that before in high school. Can you share on this? They're just happy to work with you and help you. Other than that, I mean, the hardest thing, of course, is like moving away from home and missing home. I remember feeling that a little bit my first month. But other than that, I'd say it was really smooth. I don't know if someone else could speak differently to that.
No, yeah, I agree. When I came into APU, for some reason, I became very shy, which isn't like me. I was very much an extroverted person, but when I came to APU, it was such, I guess, like I was in a different setting. I was away from my family, so I was very introverted. Like the only time I left my dorm, I kid you not, was to go to class. That was it. I never left my dorm. I know it kind of sounds sad. I promise that doesn't happen anymore. But yeah, the community was just so welcoming. And so God bless my roommate, Gabby Osborne, my freshman year. She was the one that actually got me out of bed and was like, okay, we're going to the football game. Like, get dressed, let's go. And so super thankful for her. And yeah, I agree. Because even just the whole process, it was super easy. Even with welcome weekend, there were so many different things you could check out. And it just made college seem less intimidating. And I think that was a really big thing. We have a question about study abroad. So there's actually a couple. So they're asking, how easy or hard was it to study abroad, and what was the process like studying abroad? So Natalie and Danny, I know you guys studied abroad. So do you guys want to talk about that?
Yes, so the application is pretty straightforward when it comes to applying. They'll ask you pretty simple questions about who you are, your faith journey, what are you looking forward to, all of that. Actually studying abroad is a dream. And so I remember one of the hardest things was the time difference. So that was challenging, even just navigating, okay, how do I stay in touch and be intentional with people at home, but also be intentional with my cohort and the people I'm living with. And so it was really special so the way that South Africa is set up is that I went with 37, there's 37 of us total. And it is so special to be in that group and to have that group of people and to connect through that experience that's so unique to you. But it can also be really challenging because there's times where, let's be real, you get annoyed with people. And so then it's even navigating, how do I continue to love people well and also take care of myself in this, again, really special time. So study abroad, it will challenge you, it will encourage you, it will push you out of your comfort zone, but it is so worth it. And I'm also someone where like I said, like I came from out of state, so I was totally fine not being home. I loved going abroad across the world, but if my parents actually followed me to South Africa. So my parents were like, oh, you're going to study abroad? I'm going to come too. So my parents showed up in Africa with me. So keep in mind that if your parents are asking about it, chances are they'll figure out that they can show up too. So just a funny little thing that happened, but definitely worth it. Again, challenging. You have to be willing to go out of your comfort zone, but so worth it. I just can't emphasize that enough.
I would say, honestly, the exact same thing as Natalie. I studied abroad in Ecuador this past semester, so it was a little bit different just because we got sent home halfway through the program just because of COVID. But I loved my time abroad, though it was short, and I'm still wearing my bracelet from when I chose to go to Ecuador. Honestly, it's not, I wouldn't say it's hard. I would say it's just challenging in a way. Like, you have to be willing to, like Natalie said, be open-minded and challenge yourself, because you're going to be around people and you're going to be learning a lot. And so it's so much fun, and I learned so much about myself, and I would recommend it to anyone I ever meet. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. It was just a lot of fun.
Can I say one more thing about it? Sorry, thanks, Kaylee. I would also say that APU does a really good job of having you not just be a tourist the entire time. So you're really getting invested. And I thought I was going to show up and just kind of like hang out and take classes and do whatever and have fun, which, yes, you get to do a ton of fun different things. I got to go on safari, I got to go bungee jumping, all these great things, but I also got to really witness and experience the culture of South Africa. I knew very, very little about it going into it, but I got to spend every week at one of the local townships. I got to build relationships with people there, and that was something I wasn't expecting. So again, APU does a really good job of saying, hey, you're here to learn, not only within academics, but just about this world that we live in and cultures that you would have never been exposed to in the past.
Thanks, ladies, for sharing. Also, just wanted to let you guys know that if you guys want to check out campus, see what it's like, we do have a virtual tour. And so we can actually put that in the chat. There'll be a link if you guys want to check it out. It's actually done by 2 of our admissions intern. It's kind of like a vlog style type of tour. So it's super fun, interactive. They have high energy. And so definitely recommend checking that out if you guys want to see what campus looks like. And so we also have just over 10 minutes, and so we'll answer a couple more questions before we close out here. And so one of the questions is from Mercy. She's asking, or he is asking, what are some popular activities outside of school? What are weekends like as an APU student? Okay, I'm very passionate about Halloween Horror Nights. And so my friends and I go every single year. And so obviously it's during the fall. But so you actually have like a whole bunch of places around APU, like Disneyland is only 30 minutes away. I know people that literally go to downtown Disney or Disneyland, like the main park, just to do their homework. So there's that. There, if you like hiking, we have a whole bunch of mountains around us. But Universal Studios, so LA is actually just an hour away. And so every single year, Universal Studios has Halloween Horror Nights. And it's basically just a place to get scared for hours on end. And I don't know if that's something you're into, but I absolutely love it. My friends and I love it. That was something that honestly it just refreshed me, you know, just to lose my voice from screaming and being scared. That's something you're into, highly recommend. But if you guys have any weekend activities, you guys are more than welcome to share those.
I could
add some that are less scary.
Go ahead.
So there's a couple like initiation traditions we have that you aren't required to do, but we always like doing it with the freshmen. One is there's Afters ice cream that's across the way. There's a lot of food areas that are just a walk away, which is really nice. A lot of ice cream, which is amazing. But we'll go to Afters ice cream and we'll try their cool stuff. They have like a donut bun. That's always fun. And then like Kaylee said, there's the mountains right by us. So there's a really cool canyon drive that's so pretty at night with the stars or sunset. And you can also hike that as well. And that's really fun.
Yeah, I could add that even growing up near APU, it wasn't until I came to APU where I was exposed to all of the cool things to do, not just in Aziza, but like everyone mentioned, we're just a half hour away from anything you could think of. So definitely could vouch for doing homework at Disneyland. I even went with my D group to Disneyland one time when we got in for free, like 10 minutes before the park closed. I know that's a really popular thing that a lot of APU students do. But like morning hikes on a Saturday morning, going to your favorite coffee shop right across the way. There's so many things you can do if you have a car, even if you don't have a car, because we're also located right by the metro station. So you could take the train to Pasadena, the train to LA. You have so many options.
Yeah, one of my best memories from my freshman year was me and a group of friends took the metro all the way to downtown LA and spent so long there and just explored, which I loved. Again, like I said, I'm from Oregon, so now I tell people I'm a California girl, and my parents are like, "You are not a California girl." But any chance I get to explore the city of LA, I love. And again, just the fact that public transportation is right down the road is so useful, because not only I do think it's really great to learn how to navigate public transportation, but you don't have to spend gas money and get stressed out about parking, which is something that I do regularly now.
Very true. It's always, if you have the car, you end up being the mom of the group, but it's fun. I love being the mom of the group. Just a couple more minutes, so we have a few more questions. Was there one thing that you were not expecting but really enjoyed when you were at APU? That's a really good question. I don't know. I'm trying to think. What do you guys think?
I know I've already said this like 3 times, but seriously, the professors. I cannot even begin to express how thankful I am for professors in the communication department and the youth ministry department, no matter where you're at, just how intentional they are with you. And I think that that's something that's very special and unique to APU, not only because we have smaller class sizes, not just because we're a Christian university, but because each professor coming into it knows this is my chance to really get to know students. This is my chance to really build that relationship. And so even if one of my professors, I had her once freshman year for a general education class that APU has you take, and I have her phone number now. I go to church with her, and it's just, I feel so lucky and just honored to get to know them and to have that relationship with them. And I knew coming to a smaller university, I was going to get, like, I can actually walk up to the professor and say hi or ask them a question after class instead of there being 300 students in one room. But, those questions end up being conversations. And so, yeah, I just can't emphasize enough how lucky I am with my professors. And I know that you guys look at that experience as well.
Definitely. I completely agree. The professors, again, they're just so passionate about their students. And so that's something that I really appreciate about APU. We have a question from Sophie, and she's asking about psychology. So she's saying, I would also like to study psychology. What type of classes do you take in the psychology department? Literally everything and anything. You can take classes from abnormal psychology all the way to, there was one class that I took, it was called Psychosocial Interventions in Pediatric Healthcare. I know it's a mouthful, but literally the entire class was about children playing and the psychology behind that. So that was actually a really fun class. You also have drug and substance abuse. There are other multicultural psychology currently in that one. There's a whole range of different classes that you can take. And obviously for your major, you're going to have certain classes that you must take, but also for your electives, there's going to be so many different options, and you're probably going to want to take them all. But yeah, so that's about psychology. Do you feel there's a good support program for the freshmen? Yes, definitely. I would obviously with welcome weekend, that's a big thing. It's basically where the upperclassmen just kind of show you around APU, tell you what it's about, and We also have what's called good times. It's basically where all the alpha leaders, which are typically like a year older, just make a fool of themselves. I remember I was an alpha leader my sophomore year, and we had a skit called Fountains, and basically we dressed up in bed sheets, tied them around ourselves, and we had our hydro flask in our hand. We would take a giant like gulp of water, and then we would just spit it on each other. So that's alpha for you. It's just a great way to like bond with people, make fun of us, because who wants to be spat on? Like, come on. But there's also a whole bunch of other resources your freshman year. Alea, Natalie, Danny, do you guys want to talk about what it was like being supported your freshman year?
Yeah, I got involved in a D group freshman year, so I haven't been a D group leader, but I was involved in one, and I love that. And again, just going back to this like sense of we're all in this together. Like what I tell people all the time is you're a freshman and everybody else is a freshman. So chances are if you're confused, everybody else is confused, and you get to bond over that. And so it's really nice to be able to have those connections with people. And then again, you ask anybody on campus, if you're lost or confused as to where to go to class, you can ask anyone, they will help you out. It's very much, we want you here. It's not like, oh, look, they're here. It's, we want you here. We're glad you're here, and we're going to make that the best transition possible.
Honestly, for me, I have never seen so many nice people in one place at one time than when I was a freshman. I had one of the bigger dormitories, and so anytime you're walking around, someone would introduce themselves, you get to know them. All the RAs, the resident advisors that were living in there, they were so nice. Anytime you'd walk, like going down Cougar Walk that Natalie mentioned earlier, you would meet people. Like there was not a time where someone wasn't like trying to get to know you, or like seeing like, are you new? Are you a freshman? Do you need help going somewhere? Even if you were lost to class, like I wasn't concerned trying to ask someone how to get to class. And then there was also discipleship groups and alpha groups, and there were a lot of ways to get involved on campus, which was nice. A lot of clubs as well.
Yeah, and I'll add just quickly that support you get your freshman year doesn't stop after freshman year. So we even have organizations through the Campus Life office that are dedicated to making sophomore year students feel at home, junior year students, senior year students, commuters if you're not living on campus. So you have support no matter what year you're coming in and where you're coming from, whether you're living on campus or off campus.
Definitely. Thanks, ladies. So we probably have time for 2 more questions. And so we have a question from Isabella. What kinds of jobs are there for those who want to work on campus? And so honestly, there are so many different jobs that you can work here on campus, whether that be through dining services, event services, where you set up for different events. If you want to kind of work more with the athletics, you can help setting up for different sporting events, such as like football, basketball, acro and tumbling. There's that. Facilities, so more like working around the campus, making sure it's nice and clean, things like that. And then there's also, you can be a teacher assistant. I did that for Latin. I know Latin, who wants to learn Latin? It's fine. But there's also exercise physiology, so with the kines department. And then if you want to do more of like a professional job, you have our Student Government Association, so there's that. And then you also actually have the admissions intern job, which is us. And so all of us are part of the admissions team. And so what we do, or we give tours and college fairs. And so we actually do local recruitment for prospective students. And so it may be possible in the past or maybe in the future that we will be your tour guides. So if that's the case, come say hi. And then probably time for one more question before we wrap up. Let's see. What was your favorite thing about APU? I would say community. Definitely community. I always like to say it's literally my home away from home, whether it be professors, my friends, everyone's super genuine and caring, and like we really are a family. And it's funny to think about how people that are people I know that we became friends my freshman year. Some of them are getting married our senior year. So that's something that's like really incredible to see. Natalie, what about you?
Yeah, people are just intentional. I mean, what I've kept saying with professors, with students, with study abroad, people just, they want to get to know you, and it's a really great feeling.
Definitely. Alea?
Yeah, just everything y'all just said. I feel like I'm only seen on campus, even though we're not on campus right now, even from a remote setting, like professors, like you said, being able to text your professors, like you don't have that at every university. So if you're thinking about making APU your home, like, I don't know, I vouch for this place. I'm in love with APU. So just knowing that you have the support you need and that it is a home away from home for you.
Danny, any last thoughts?
I mean, I would say the same as everyone else. I never felt like going home on the weekends because I just loved being on campus. I loved getting to meet everyone. It's such a cool thing. I mean, the community here, it makes it different than any other university. It really does. I love the community here on campus. It's my favorite part.
Definitely. Well, thank you everyone for coming. I hope we answered all of your questions. Again, if you guys want to check out campus and you want to see that video, I think Emily Dial sent in a link, so make sure to check that out. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us and thanks for asking all those questions. It was nice getting to talk to you guys.